This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon, the farmer's market delivered. They deliver Colorado's freshest local produce straight to your doorstep. Pine Melon is a next-generation grocery delivery app that partners with over 200 local farmers, ranchers, and producers right here in Colorado. So I need dragon fruit, some of those cotton candy grapes. Oh, I love those grapes. Cherries. Is it cherry season? Pine Melon offers same-day delivery to Denver and Boulder within a 2-hour window. No subscription necessary. So support local today and use promo code CityCastDenver for $75 off your first delivery at pinemelon.com. Today on CityCast Denver. Corporations, they were all over the news this week. So we're talking about the Barnes & Noble bid to buy our beloved Tattered cover and the role of corporate money in Pride, which is this weekend. So we've got a couple of returning faves with me to round up the news and share our tips for having the best Pride ever. Today is Friday, June 21st. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city in a state where we keep making headlines because this cake baker can't stop being homophobic and transphobic about baking cakes. Have you guys?
It was just that one time every day of his life. It's not a big deal.
So I do regret to inform you, if you guys don't know the full story, this is the guy, the Masterpiece Cake Shop owner who wouldn't make a cake for a gay couple, blah, blah, blah. Went to the Supreme Court, I believe. And now he's back again because he didn't want to make a cake that was pink and blue for someone's birthday / maybe gender transition party. So bizarre. Are you just like, Kate's just like, I'm dying.
I just can't anymore.
Neither can he. That's why he said something.
Yes, exactly.
It's so bizarre.
He got that order and was like, that's the exact same face he had. I have a whole, I begun a list of people of this type. And I mean, like, people who spend our time and energy worrying about their stupid issues. And it's a list of hopeful comeuppances.
Oh, yeah, that he ultimately gets, like...
Yeah, where it's like, I'm not, wishing death. That's never
No,
my
I'm
extreme,
wishing,
but
like, Anita Bryant pie in the face
exactly
level kind of
Especially
thing.
because he is a baker.
Hopefully
so I
a
think that'd
pink-
be really beautiful.
Hopefully a pink and blue cake.
I didn't read the whole article. Is he single? Like, what's happening?
Well, if you would like to present as straight, maybe you could approach Jack Phillips.
Bitch, I can be straight. I'm wearing a ball cap.
Does that make you straight?
Didn't make the case I thought it did. Let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. It's Friday. We're in the 5280 Magazine studios. Beautiful downtown Denver. Two great guests today. Two great returning guests. You've already heard her voice. She's one half of the Techtopia podcast and live show. Amazing comedian. And I have to say, someone who I would imagine I would have giggled a lot with at slumber parties. Kate McLaughlin, welcome back.
Yes. Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Were you a giggly girl? Did you get in trouble for? I was a giggler.
I was a chatter. Yeah. Big chat.
I got in trouble for no conducting social hour in class.
Yeah, a lot of disciplinary behaviors.
For being too
in like
chatty.
a quirky way.
Yeah, not in a I'm in trouble way. I like, you're just weird way.
I just got ideas and everyone's going to hear about them.
And of course, you heard his voice as well. He's the artistic director of the C Film Center. Someone to me with impeccable taste in clothing, movies, music, and art. He is the gay uncle to one of the gay uncles to my toddler, Gunkle, Keith Garcia. Welcome back.
Hi. Thanks for having me back. Real quick question, though.
Yeah.
If you would have giggled with Kate in summer parties, would you have let Kate make out with you at summer parties?
I wish I was. Every day of my life, I wish I was that queer,
okay.
but I'm just really queer in lifestyle.
One of my favorite parts of this was like, he is the best dressed, best taste, most beautiful man alive. She seems like she wouldn't shut up as a kid.
I guess I should have.
She's bisexual, but we don't care.
I could amend and say I would have thought Keith was also giggling with us at the slumber party. Were you the boy at all the girl slumber parties?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I figured.
I definitely was. Yeah, that random boy.
I had many Keiths in my life.
I know,
And
I
I loved
did.
them
the
all.
parents
I know.
were like, "It's okay.
It's fine. It's Keith.
Yeah, like Keith can stay over.
Keith is the only
it's
boy allowed to
fine.
stay.
Loved it.
So we would have all been at that summer
I
party.
think I get that energy that we would have been friends in school.
Playing Mystery Date and watching MTV.
Date. What was the date? The phone one?
That was Mystery Date.
Was that
Yeah.
Mystery Date? They'd be like,
That's
you get a
awesome.
call from Chad. Chad!
That would have been awesome.
Oh, or Mall Madness.
Mall Madness was amazing. Did you guys ever watch Mother Goose Rock and Rhyme?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that is. I had a VHS of that I would have been like, no, but Cyndi Lauper's in this, and that's what you would actually. We'll discuss this.
Cyndi
later.
Lauper, my favorite artist as
You would
in elementary school.
love Mother Goose Rock and Rhyme.
Oh my God, I'm going to go home and Google this.
It's
We'll put a link to it in the show notes for other people that are as curious as I am. But we are actually talking about the Tattered cover being sold to Barnes & Noble for what I felt was like a very paltry amount.
It seemed small.
$1.8 million?
I mean, they essentially bought a house in
No,
in
for real.
Denver.
yeah,
Like, what?
great
You're
real
right.
estate. It's right by Twist and Shout. Yeah.
It's across from the high school. If you've got kids high school age, the walkability score of the Tattered cover as a home is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, for more than 50 years, the Tattered cover was this independent bookstore. It was a local chain. It was beloved by generations of folks. I mean, I think all of us probably have very fond memories of this place, which we'll talk about. But I'm not going to, there was so much drama to rehash over the last couple of years when it comes to ownership and bankruptcy issues and other stuff. But this has been a conversation for the last couple of months, like the state of it. I had been in and it looked barren. I mean, there were just like signals that things were really, really going
It was
bad.
bumming me out last time I was in there.
Yeah, where you're like, I want to support this place, but I feel like it's in its funeral state already. But Keith, you work at the Sea Film Center. You're neighbors to Tattered cover. You guys even were using some of their space as your office space. What was going on? I mean, at least from your perspective watching it.
I mean, I felt the same way y'all did, where it was like, what, hoping for the best. I mean, Tattered cover has been our like partner in that space ever since we've been there. And technically, before we went there was a partnership about that location. We want them to succeed. And also, there's such a history with that name and all that stuff that we're a nonprofit organization, Denver Film. We really want the people who aren't nonprofits to be able to hit their business model. And, we were there at the same time when COVID happened, and they and Twist and Shout figured out how to make their business work in that really hard time and to stick out of it. But in this instances, it's like, we just don't know. And is this a good deal? I mean, we don't know all the details about what's going to happen in regards to, I guess, behind the scenes, which is where this all really matters. But I'm just hoping it is a good deal for them and that they can continue
Something good comes out of it.
Yeah, exactly, to stick around.
Because it was like this trifecta too of this. We're looking at like sort of essentially like a strip mall or a mall, but it was independent, right? It was Twist, it was Tattered, it was the Sea, and so now
Chipotle.
everyone's
It's like
hometown.
4 Denver institutions.
Good point.
Who rent from Twist and Shout. So they don't own that spot.
Wait, that's
so.
hot.
That is.
Yeah, so.
Look at Twist and Shout.
I'm moved by that. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, what was like you said, you've been in, it was sort of depressing, but what was your relationship with the Tattered cover?
Growing up in Durango, coming to visit my family in Denver, it was like a must stop every time.
Yes.
I thought it was the coolest place in the world when I was a little kid. And I still, like, the sunken living room area always really charmed me as a kid. And I don't know. I'm sad. Adam Caton Holland, a friend of mine, another local comic, said that it was Denver jumping the shark to have Barnes & Noble buy it up. And that's how, between that and the outsourcing of the Brown Palace, like, valet staff, I was like, what are we doing here, you guys?
It is this very weird, it's like, it feels almost like the thing that we feared most in the 90s, right, Keith? Like this fear of selling out kind of thing. And this like, I don't know, just like this thing was a stronghold for decades, like against, the Barnes and Nobles of the world and the, B. Dalton books and all these other things that were popping up in malls.
You've got mail flashbacks.
Well, I was just, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, which is what that movie is, half of it,
Yep.
one subplot that it's all about is this guy running a corporate bookstore, taking over this indie bookstore. And, I mean, the thing that's interesting though is like, we've also been watching it die.
Yes.
And that's like the reality of it, I think, is like it sounds bad on the surface. We're looking at a corporation buying an independent thing. But at the same time, like there's this quote from the current CEO, Brad Dempsey. He told Denverite, the company's never really been profitable over the last almost decade or more. And the ability of our booksellers to do what they need to do has been really restrained by the lack of financial support, the technology problems. I mean, we all saw their computers. They looked like they looked like
They were
look like
retro.
They look like the brown computers I learned how to type on, like in the 80s. But
Good
like
old DOS.
Yeah,
And
when
it-
stuff is old, but not in a good-looking way.
not just like a how is this thing still functioning kind of way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this might be the infusion of cash that it needs to upgrade some of those things. And the other thing I thought was maybe the benefits will be better for the employees. But I genuinely don't know.
My hope is that the people working there will get an increase.
That's what I thought
pay.
too.
That's my hope. I know that it's pretty paltry.
But
And-
maybe like that could get better.
Yeah.
Maybe book selection, it could fill in again. I mean, you know.
God, that'd be nice.
I mean, I can only imagine that a place like Barnes & Noble is watching something like Tattered Cover, who, even if they haven't been profitable for the last decade, they're still here.
have
And
name
they
rec-
represent
Yes.
a customer base.
The name recognition is very real.
It's
Exactly.
huge.
And, someone like Barnes & Noble, it's hard to think that they in turn might be in trouble to where they're like, we need to latch ourselves to a local group and we'll, put in an infusion of money almost as an investment to carry that along and maintain their presence as a bookseller.
Yeah.
At the very least in Colorado, much
Yeah.
less the rest of the country or the world. So it's an interesting
Yeah, because
play of events.
I mean, my most optimistic is that it'll be like when Landmark takes over a vintage
Yeah.
historic
Which
recognition theater, and that could go either way, right? We've seen with the Esquire and the Mayan,
totally.
the two different directions that could go in.
And Keith, I mean, that's something that you experienced directly, right? Working in
Yeah.
that industry. And so I think you could probably speak to the benefits as well as the drawbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a nonprofit and, Landmark Theaters and Alamo Drafthouse are corporations.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about all the
I
corporations
love it.
today.
You get so spicy about this online. I was
Do
like, oh,
it.
Kate opened the door. Go ahead.
but,
Do this.
it's, we are the nonprofit and we're doing everything that they do only without that umbrella. And it's just always that question mark of, what I hate to have with Tattered in this sale is, how we are like, please support the nonprofit
Yeah.
art house theater that is not a corporation, because that's who we are and this helps directly benefit us. That now when we used to say, and I'm hoping this isn't the case, when we used to say, oh, of all the bookstores to support, please support Tattered Cover because they're the local bookstore.
Yeah.
I'm wishing the best, but hoping that it's not, the corporation thing that happens to that.
Yeah. I just think about curatorial aspects of these things and what gets put on shelves and who makes those decisions.
Yeah.
And, we know Joyce Meskis, the longtime owner really went to bat for things like the First Amendment and keeping people's information private in the books that they were buying. And that also meant that she was putting books out there that maybe you wouldn't find at a Barnes and Noble, right? And that's the thing I worry about with the corporate takeover is will it affect the indie publishers kind of relationships and things like that.
Yeah, my most cynical self thought that was just the price of the data.
Yeah. Totally. No, I mean
data and the
that's a really
inventory.
fair point.
Yeah.
It's like just the access to customer information might be worth $1.8 million. I mean, even they must not own that building because that building is worth way more.
No,
Yeah,
they also rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just the business itself. But you're right. I mean, that's a valuable. Our data is bought and sold every day. 1.8 million doesn't feel like that much. Oh,
Sad.
I know. I was like, now that we're on this uncomfortable, sad note about it, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'd be curious to hear from employees. I'd be curious to hear from local authors' experiences, if
Yeah.
that will change things. If they will continue, will it be a community partner in any kind? Will anything like that change? Or will it just straight out become Barnes & Noble with the Tattered cover name on it?
This can't be the first independent bookseller they've bought.
No, they actually did buy another one. There was, I think the Denver Ed article mentions it. And so, if I recall from the piece, it went pretty well.
Okay.
Like, it didn't seem like they were too intrusive. But I would imagine it's also a case-by-case basis, depending on where Tattered cover was.
Yeah,
with
the state
everything.
of what they bought.
Exactly. Like, what are they working with? Is it worth it, or do they have to really just overhaul the whole thing? So, I don't know. We'll see. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about corporations and beloved local things.
Happy Pride, everybody.
And just to clarify one small thing, the Barnes & Noble bid to acquire Tattered cover is technically not a done deal just yet. It still needs to be approved by a bankruptcy court. So we really do need to hear from you. Text or leave us your thoughts in a voicemail at 720-500-5418. Again, that number is 720-500-5418. This episode is brought to you by Central City Opera. Central City Opera's Summer Festival is almost here. Don't miss your opportunity to experience exceptional musical theater and opera in the Central City Opera House. Immerse yourself in this historic 1878 theater's vintage Wild West vibes while taking in shows like Pirates of Penzance, Girl of the Golden West, and Street Scene. Central City Opera is focused on providing opera for the people. It's not just about tuxes and opera glasses, though you're welcome to dress up if you want to. I have this prom dress from the 90s that I need an excuse to wear again, but it's like this iridescent peach color, and I have no other place to wear it. And I think the Central City Opera House would be perfect. But this is Colorado. Folks are welcome to come in jeans and flannels if they want. You can find tickets and a performance schedule at centralcityopera.org/citycast. Book tickets by June 30th and use the code CITYCAST at checkout for 20% off all performances after July 18th. Again, book using code CITYCAST at centralcityopera.org/citycast. This episode is brought to you by Young People for All People, a leading voice for young people in Colorado focused on building the next generation's power. Primary election day is June 25th. But hold up, what is a primary election and how can you vote? Head to neweraColoradoAction.org for a one-stop shop of all the information you need to vote in your party's primary election by 7 p.m. on June 25th. In Colorado, it's never too late to register to vote. You can register to vote or update your registration at a voter service center in your county. Just be in line by 7 p.m. on Election Day. And yes, students can vote, as long as they've lived in Colorado for at least 22 days before Election Day. So as long as you've lived in Colorado since June 3rd, you're good to vote. Find out if you have the chance to vote for a Youth Agenda champion in the Denver area on June 25th by visiting neweraColoradoAction.org. This ad is brought to you by Young People for All People, a leading voice for young people in Colorado focused on building the next generation's power. This ad is also paid for by Young People for All People, Christina Solis, registered agent. This ad is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Okay, we're back. The Denver Business Journal had this story this week on the corporate sponsorship of Pride here in Denver, or what it really takes to make this massive event happen every year. So, our Denver Pride, like the festival and the parade and the 5K and all the things involved with that, are overseen by this queer life focused nonprofit that we've had here forever called the Center on Colfax. But what was interesting from this story was like Pride Weekend is comprised of this puzzle of 80 sponsors to make the money work.
Yeah.
And so there's always been pushback from the queer community in the last couple of decades over the corporate intrusion on Pride. And we can talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about that history. But before that, I just want to share this quote from Rex Fuller, the CEO of the center, who said, "I don't have a lot of shame about accepting corporate money to put Pride on, because we just wouldn't be able to do it without that. It's that simple." Now, the earliest version, I found this so interesting from the story too. The earliest version of the center served as a community resource. It was sort of a crisis hotline space. And because of this, it was membership based. That's how they originally made their money, which is a lot of sort of mutual aid community. I didn't know that. Yeah, community oriented things was because, in the 70s and 80s, they're not the same kind of nonprofit as like the Gill Foundation is today kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where it's like totally acceptable. And so they were getting money from the community, but then at a certain point they want to grow. The acceptance of queer folks in the world is growing. Colorado was once known as the hate state. I mean, we've come a long way.
And now it's the Kate state. And I'm so sorry.
I don't remember voting on that amendment, Kate, but
in my house, it's the Kate state.
I mean, but her face on the side of that mountain
so sorry.
should have clued you in.
So here in the Kate state, Pride is really funded by corporations.
Yeah.
Keith, can we talk a little bit about the Coors boycott? Because this is what came to mind when I think about.
Absolutely.
You know, like Coors is a sponsor of Pride all over the country.
Eyes rolling.
It's everywhere. And this was one of the more surprising turns, probably not surprising anymore, but initially there was a boycott because of Coors and the way that they discriminated against queer people and, funded organizations that were working on anti-gay legislation. Keith, can you talk a little bit more about that boycott?
Yeah, I mean, the Coors boycott goes back to the 60s. And the things that first started the original boycott was about union stuff and worker stuff. And it was a big issue with workers in San Francisco in the 70s that tied into they found homophobic laws and practices within their company that one of the Teamsters for Coors was openly gay and decided to call this boycott, almost like getting a strike together, but saying, well, let's hit it from the outside too. And so he partnered up with Harvey Milk, who was able to essentially just rally the entire queer community of San Francisco to say, get Coors out of our bars.
And we're talking about a politician who was assassinated.
Yes.
For being
and
gay.
openly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that brought about a lot of change, especially with anything related to LGBTQ in Coors at that moment. And because of that, I think Coors has long been a friend of the LGBTQ community as an apology.
Yeah.
That's rolled along for forever. They kind of were like, we understand this. We set up things so that homophobia will never be a part of our policy and all this stuff. And, good for them.
Until people from their family run for office.
Right.
Or whatever.
Exactly. And so, but this is the thing that's like, it can fit in a place like this. And understandably, when their values align with something like Pride Fest, and this is the thing, actually, any nonprofit, and we look at this at ourselves at Denver Film, corporate money is very important. As Rex said, it's the way that things get done because it is so much.
Yeah.
We certainly, our first line of attack when we're raising money is individual donors. We want to be with the people, and we want the people to feel to be a part of it. But individuals only can give so much because they're individuals living lives and, shaving off what they can of their income that is disposable in that way. But corporations just build up and build up and build up all this money. And they're like, we got to put this somewhere.
Right. It's going to go somewhere.
Exactly.
You know how it is when you have millions of extra dollars.
It's just like, you got to just shake it off.
Yeah,
What is the problem
my
again?
Scrooge McDuck vault is
Swimming.
I need to
your
donate.
Swimming pool full of money.
Yes, exactly. But this becomes like the bigger issue is who has the time to really super go deep into a corporation's every little bit to see if everything aligns. I mean, everything that's front facing for the most part for any of these corporations that sponsor Pride is probably very, very fine. It aligns itself with everything. But I'm kind of personally, I kind of feel that there's no real clean money in corporate money because at some point, something that they're supporting is going to touch the base. It's like, 1 minute we're liking Coca-Cola. 1 minute we're reminded that no, Coca-Cola does this. 1 minute
then we're remembering Diet Coke and we're like, wait, I changed my mind.
Love it.
Exactly.
Can't live without it, so we'll take their money.
But even like Starbucks, like we were just talking about before the show, like Starbucks is it. I don't drink coffee and I don't go to Starbucks, but I always hear people like, well, I can't go this week I can't go this month because they're currently not saying anything.
They're union
about,
busting, or
they're union
Their
busting,
union busting is
or they're
their
supporting,
current
you know,
thing.
Israel, or they're doing this,
Right.
or whatever. And it's just like, okay, as a person, just trying to navigate this as like, what am I shopping? What am I doing? Whatever. That's
It's like
hard.
the Target versus Walmart thing where people are like, Target loves gay people, Walmart hates gay people. And like, if we dig into the money,
It's like they
Exactly,
I have the
but-
same amount of vitriol for poor people everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But even like, let's go to Target. And last year, where they kowtowed to people who became violent
at
about
Target employees about pride displays.
And pulled their entire thing. And this affected individual artists. And this is, you know, we're talking about someone that we all know who has a line of art through Starbucks right now for Pride, that they're getting all the credit. They're getting, like, they're displaying their talents. People are, this is across the country.
Right.
And the question mark becomes, it's like, good for them and glad that can work out. What happens when someone gets violent at a Starbucks about their Pride collection? What is Starbucks going to do about it? It's very easy for them to say, like, sorry, we made a mistake, and pull it all.
Right.
But that affects the individual artist.
It's so tricky because like there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? So with personal responsibility for me as a buyer, I'm like, does that mean nothing matters with my dollar?
Right.
Or can I still like support stuff I believe in? Does my dollar even matter at a certain amount? For me, it's hard when the queer community is perceived as like an untapped market,
Yeah.
and at my most cynical. But, you know, I remember like 10 years ago at one of my first prides, it was meaningful to see corporations like supporting it. I remember like there was a Chipotle ad where they like made the foil a rainbow.
Because
And that was like
you're being seen.
that was meaningful
Exactly.
to me. And so and also it'd be naive to think that the scale of Pride that's done now can't be done without a lot of funding.
Yeah. No, that's true. And we've been sort of dancing around it. You talked a little bit about this, but we're talking about Sophie Birkin.
Our friend Sophie Birkin.
Sophie Birkin is an artist who's based here in Denver. She has this Pride collection that
And it's
Starbucks put out. It's
kick-ass.
a beautiful. We're looking
Yeah.
at my cup that I bought.
Yeah, I'm staring at
yesterday.
it.
But what was so cool to me was this mug came with a tag that talked about who Sophie Birkin was. This is
Yeah.
not just like she did the graphic design work and we all know it because we
Yeah.
know her work.
And her name's on the cup
Her
too.
name is on the
Yeah,
cup.
it's a big deal.
And I know I've been seeing a lot of the online conversation being about if you're supporting Starbucks, you're supporting Israel, and you should be. I saw it in the comments of her post about
Yeah.
this. And I felt for her because I thought, one, this was an opportunity that an artist got. And we don't talk enough
That
about.
she got like 2 years
Yeah,
ago, by
like,
the way.
Of course, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight that you get to do this work with Starbucks. And I hope that she got paid, you know, plentifully for the work that she did. But what I thought when I saw it was, I want to buy every one of these because I want it to sell out so Starbucks knows that Sophie Birkin's
Yeah.
art connects with
Valuable.
people.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, at the base of it too, we're talking about representation, right? What I've always loved about her art is it also represents people with disabilities and
Yeah,
the queer
it's so
community.
cool.
And it's like people and experiences you don't see in everyday life all the time reflected in commercial.
Have you seen her
work.
room at Meow Wolf?
Oh, of course. I love her
it's
room
so
at
good.
Meow
Me
Wolf.
too. It's one of my favorites.
Well, and, you know, tying back to visibility, which I think is the key point of Pride. I think that we've built up Pride over these years, for Denver, the last 50 years,
Yeah.
to get to a point where there is no denying it. You can't shield your eyes from the notion that
Yeah.
there are queer people in the world, and we are all among everybody, and we are part of everything. And the notion of doing an art piece like this through a corporation is kind of just the way it has to move, because it's about how a small local artist
How is
gets
she gonna-
eyeballs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how would she reach this many people?
Corporate
Exactly.
approval moves the needle quite a bit.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, if ever we take, you know, corporate money for an event or anything like that, it's under the same guise of like, your feed, your customers, your everything are going to see what we're putting out.
Yeah, how else do you get eyes on Cinema Q? You know, a queer film festival. You get it in multiple ways. I mean, obviously, also, we have to talk about community showing up for
sure.
itself, but also you're getting in front of people that maybe would have never heard about this festival before.
Exactly. And it's a necessary, thing to do. I'm happy that with like Cinema Q that we have a great local individual, William Laban, who supports the most for Cinema Q, and we're able to work with him. And his kind donations to do that. But yeah, every so often we do have to take a chunk here and a chunk there from corporations, and all we can do is just hope that everything is aligning right and that there's nothing.
Well, and so I'm thinking about, I co-organized a queer-centered music festival for over a decade, Tit Wrench, and we did no sponsorship whatsoever. We thank you.
So that name, like it just never doesn't delight me. And you say it like it's not nothing, but
I said it hundreds of times.
Go back to Tit Wrench.
But like we accepted in-kind donations from local businesses.
Yeah.
We never took sponsorship. But also, which was a point of pride for us, but also it meant that we didn't always make as much money as we
I'm sure
would
it was
want
so much work.
We never paid ourselves, that's for sure. We paid our artists. Would we want to pay our artists more? Yes.
Yeah.
Would we have wanted to be able to pay some of the venues that actually just donated their space to us? Yes.
Yeah.
But because we stuck to that, we were at a certain level forever. And it was fine with us, but we didn't necessarily get to reach as many folks as we would want to. And I think about this with you, Kate, with Dyketopia.
Yeah.
You guys are fully independent. You put your show on at the Oriental Theater, an independent theater here that you sell out. I mean, your community shows, community shows up for you immediately.
We're very lucky. Yeah.
But it's also because it's wanted and needed. But if you ever had to face this, like you guys want to grow this, you want to do maybe a tour or something, and you get offered a sponsorship by a corporation, how would you think about that?
We might be closer in podcasting to sponsorships.
Sure.
Because it's just a lower bar of getting sponsorships. And the only thing that I would really be unhappy to receive a sponsorship from is BetterHelp. That's the only
the mental
thought
health
I've had. Yeah. Because I think it's unless you guys use BetterHelp, in which case enter the code CityCast for 10% off.
But just morally,
that
you feel
to me is like a personal. I've got a personal problem with them. I think that they're opportunistic and not necessarily the most helpful.
And it really doesn't align with what you talk about on your podcast a lot, which is mental health.
Yeah,
and
to
the space
people in
to
therapy. I don't want to be like, but try better.
But I feel you.
Yeah,
it's like
I'm
you have a very
speak
hard.
Carefully, so I'm speaking slowly. You noticed.
I did.
Yes.
But it was something you'd have to think about.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah. So far, our sponsors have been local businesses and friends that are businesses. Like Awakening Boutique has always been super supportive, and we love them. And yeah, we've been aligned with everybody, and tickets drive. It's not like a free event such as other places.
Yeah.
So we won a grant from Eventbrite, and that's probably the closest we've gotten to corporate sponsorship.
But that's
and it was a pretty positive experience. Yeah.
Keith, you've talked a little bit about this as a nonprofit. This is just part of the game, but you're also a curator. You're someone that is very fearless in what you bring to a screen that I wouldn't necessarily see elsewhere. I guess my question is does corporate sponsorship ever impact what you fearlessly want to bring?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Do you ever feel interference?
Yeah.
No.
That's great.
And I think that, and I'm not the one who's going out there getting the sponsorships at Denver Film, but I'm pretty sure that we're set to. That's not a level of interference that we'll ever allow.
Great.
It's part of, that is a driving point too of how we stay, a line we put with the corporate theaters. We are individuals programming these films and not a committee, not a...
That goes out to every AMC in the country gets this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Showing or whatever.
At this point, probably an AI algorithm for... depends who.
Wait, you guys don't like AI?
The movie's fine.
Listeners, I winked.
The practice.
Yeah. I need to make that
listeners of the
super clear.
podcast.
Yeah.
Let's just remember Terminator and Terminator 2 taught us this lesson years ago to bring it back to movies.
So true, Ken.
But yeah, that's not part of it. And when we do take corporate dollars, it's never there. As far as I've known, there hasn't been any like, oh, and you have to do
interference.
this. It's more like if you see a film that lines up with something that we might be interested in, like let us know, or that corporate dollar goes to a particular film, but in an essence to lift it up a little bit more, to get more eyeballs on it because it's sponsored by Swayze, who can put the message out there about it.
So there are ways to do it. I think, and I think that's probably what I think Rex would tell you too.
Yeah.
Not to speak for him, but like as the CEO of the center, he talks in this article like it would not happen if we didn't have corporate dollars. And I mean, because we're talking about like shutting down the street and getting permits and to ensuring it, all the things that go behind a festival that people don't necessarily think about, on top of paying the artists that are coming and the performers. I mean, we're getting huge performers to come, and there's all of this stuff that like a DIY level festival can only do so much. Yeah. And so it's like if we want to enjoy Pride, and also if we want to make it a little bit more accessible to people who might not get to a Dyktopia show, but would for the first time maybe come to Pride. That was such an entry point for me as a young person.
Me too. Yeah.
It was like learning about the queer community through what I witnessed at Pride and the people I met at Pride and just the experiences that I had. And if it were to cease, what does the next generation do if they don't have this public display of it being okay to be, or not only just not okay to be yourself, but like really
it's
be yourself.
It's
celebrated in where you meet other folks in your community.
I am hopeful though of the reminder, especially with like global conflict, that Pride is a protest.
Yeah.
And I'm optimistic that there's room for both in this conversation, that we can enjoy a lot of the things that, like the fun events that Pride has to offer, while still being very mindful of its original function.
Yes, this was a revolution for collective liberation of queer people. And on that note, I think about, I didn't know about Marsha P. Johnson or Sylvia Rivera when I was in high school. I'd never heard about them. And so, but to know that maybe like a 10-year-old is going to learn about who they are.
That's so cool.
This day and age is incredible, in part because there's just more access. Yeah. And sometimes that comes with corporate sponsorship.
And there was a time.
Well said.
There was a time too when the LGBTQ community was considered poison for corporations to align with.
And then they discovered dual income, no kids, and we're like, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And have you seen their closets and their wardrobes? They will buy a lot.
And then our purchasing power was revealed.
Exactly.
And that's so beautiful.
But it's always the thing.
Who was putting clothes on dogs first? It was not straight people.
Yes, exactly. That's true. That is very, very true.
Just
that
David
is
Lane's
fact.
character in The Gilded Age. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the crux of all this is that we can't forget that, and that just because dollar signs appeared around us and the world opened up to queer issues and acceptance, that the door can swing the other way at any point with any of these corporations deciding that.
Especially if they get enough pressure. I'm thinking about
Look at what happened with Bud Light last year.
I was just going to say, I just read this horrendous profile of Kid Rock about that situation. And I think what folks don't know is Dylan, what's her name? Dylan Mulvaney?
Yeah.
So she was a trans influencer that did like a 10-second reel
she got
for Bud Light and probably got a couple hundred
She was
bucks.
like, I'm drinking Bud Light while watching March Madness. It was like,
it was just such a blip.
And they put her on a Pride can.
I thought the can just went to her. That was my understanding.
Maybe I didn't get all the facts.
It just
but
didn't
either
feel
way,
like
it existed.
The reaction didn't feel worth at what she was getting.
Yeah.
Not that it ever does, but there wasn't that much exposure. All to say, the backlash was real, and because it got picked up by Fox News and Kid Rock was shooting cans of it with his AK-47 or whatever, and then
you guys don't like Kid Rock?
I'm not a bow at the bow girl, but
I thought we had so much in common today, and now I'm like, who are my friends?
Well, your friend Kid Rock has a lot of political power, unfortunately.
Yeah, what a loser, dude. He's from a super rich family.
Yeah.
That's what drives me crazy.
He's from like a wealthy family in Detroit. He's not this like gun-toting
He just
hillbilly
looks
thing.
like that on purpose, which is crazy. What a choice.
Exactly. Choices.
But you're right. That happened, and they pulled back. Or like you said with Keith, you said with Target pulling back because they had a Pride, and like Target is full of Pride stuff year round.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we'll wrap up here. If you have thoughts on corporations' involvement in Pride, we would love to hear from you. The Corporate Pride hotline is open, 720-500-5418. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have plans for your gay weekend. And we're back, and this is what your gay ass is going to be doing all weekend.
Yeah, your gay ass specifically.
So instead of doing our regular highs and lows, I wanted to hear from you both some ideas of stuff you're going to do this weekend, because there's so much happening for Pride, and I think sometimes it's hard to choose. So let's start with, where are you having brunch, Kate?
Ooh, where am I not having brunch? A place that remains queer year-round in aesthetic and lifestyle is Jelly.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it has the number one quality a brunch restaurant can have, in that it's close to my house.
Proximity.
Yeah.
Built-in campy-ishness.
It's so campy in there. All the old cereal boxes are just amazing.
Just in these plexiglass boxes like they're artifacts, which I guess they are.
They technically, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I like to brunch, is Jelly.
Tip your servers.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Keith?
I think I will be avoiding a traditional.
You won't be
queer
doing a drag
explosion.
brunch, or
Well, you can always, mind you, Hamburger Mary's, the number one home of drag brunches in the city, and
so
queer.
fun. That would be my rec too.
My favorite.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And-
I was just thinking brunch.
Yeah,
I forgot
Brunch
we're talking
is
about
gay if you're
Pride.
there,
Yeah.
so.
By the time I show up, honey, brunch, it's at least breakfast curious. I'm so sorry.
So Keith, if you're breakfast curious, where do you go?
I will probably be going to Chef Zorba's.
Yeah.
Because it's near Cheeseman Park, where
It is.
many queer activities occur.
And it is a gay institution in itself.
It is.
When we
I
go
love
in,
Zorba's.
we go there. That's our spot. That's
Yeah.
Keith and I's spot, and it is us and
No, that whole block,
Ugh.
like Shells and Sauce and Peters. I love that. I love all those places.
But when I need a
great.
break from the Kim Petras soundtrack over my brunch, I'll be at Zorba's.
and Zorba's is
they
like
want to start
it's
playing
walking
Kim
distance
Petras.
from Colfax, so that's perfect.
Exactly.
Okay, it's nighttime. We can either talk your big night plan or your after party plan. Who wants to go?
Well, on the 22nd, I am doing a show at the Bug
Oh,
with
fun.
local queer legend Nancy Norton.
Yes.
And it's a whole queer lineup. It's going to be really fun. And that's what I'll be doing.
I'll be working.
Yes, exactly. And
Oh,
then,
that's so great, though.
yeah, and then I'm probably going to go to Charlie's and disassociate for a little bit. In a fun way.
That's perfect. Keith, what about you?
I mean, it's funny that we're just talking about Saturday, the 22nd, is literally 45 different events you could go to.
I know.
From 7 p.m.
But
until
there's only
late.
one where I'm getting paid to be there.
Exactly.
And that's
Fair.
my favorite
And so
one.
carve out the time from to see Kate, because there's so many things going on that Saturday. There's Barracuda. There is this new show called Playhouse that is a partnership with X Bar.
Oh,
It's going to be at the Ogden.
Oh, cool.
But X Bar is pushing it because I think they just expect so many people to come.
Yeah,
but
totally,
There's a bunch
yeah.
of great DJs, a lot of local drag. Evie Oddly's going to be there doing a performance,
That's awesome.
amongst many others. And that sounds
that
like
sounds
a really fun
amazing.
little and it starts around like 7 or 8, so it's a good chunk of time there. There's a blow pony at
So I was thinking
Trade.
blow pony, yeah.
The thing I'll be doing though that evening definitely is Junk Drawer.
Oh, I'm glad I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
Junk Drawer.
Okay,
Which-
tell
Tell
me
us-
everything.
yes.
Tell you about Junk Drawer? Well, you can catch this because it's after your show. So Junk Drawer is a really great queer party that occurs quarterly, essentially. And of course, Pride is their biggest, kind of blowout. It's amazing DJs that they bring in from around the country. A very safe queer space for just dancing and hanging out and being community. It's queer, safe, sexy as well, like very sex positive. There's a clothing check. There's not nudity per se, but if you want to, if you just don't want to wear your shirt that evening, just check it.
Where is Junk Drawer?
It's always a secret TBD location until the party, until the day of.
How 90s rave of
I
Yeah,
know,
that sounds
I love
so
it.
fun.
I like if there's a
that.
map point I have to go to first.
Exactly.
Into it.
And this party goes, actually doesn't start till midnight on Saturday.
Oh my
God.
God.
As in Saturday at the end.
Go see Kate, go to Playhouse, hit Charlie's for one dance.
Yeah.
And then there, and it runs till 6 a.m. So it has your very late evening and afters covered.
Oh, that sounds great.
Hell
Do they have an Instagram or?
They do. They're just Junk Drawer Party, I believe, on Instagram.
It's a great name.
Yep.
I know, isn't
and
it?
tickets are still available,
Okay.
but they are going fast. So if you want to close out your Saturday Pride weekend night with a big queer dance
amazing.
party, then
Yeah, that
hit
sounds
'em up.
really fun.
You're right. We have 10 things to do.
Yeah.
I won't do any of them because I'll be sleeping, but you two will be out on the town. One last category. We all know the Sunday wind down after the Sunday of Pride. Either you're still raging or you're trying to find some way to relax. What are you two doing for the Sunday wind down in Pride?
Big fan of laying in a park.
I know. I was thinking that exact same thing. I was like, I
Yeah.
use Cheeseman Park, just laying in the shade.
Yeah, just to be
kind of my favorite.
around a couple dogs. They just hung over as me, and
Those hungover dogs,
it's rough.
they all go to Cheeseman Park.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of laying out in the sun. That's
Yeah.
probably, or if anyone has a pool, and you've got room for me,
This is a good pool
that's
party
also
time.
something I'd like to do.
Keith, what about you?
Well, I always just feel like Sunday is not a relaxing time for me at Pride. Like whether or not Denver Film, we have a booth, which we do this year. Visit us on Sponsor Row and learn more about Cinema Q. The Cinema Q Film Festival coming August 8th through the 11th at the C Film Center. So we're usually pushing that. And so that's usually till the end of Pride Fest. And then there's always like, oh, let's go do something. Let's go to the Beer Bust, a trade. Or the Eagle this year has like a closing dance party of like house music and through the decades.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
There
That
at
sounds
the
so
Eagle
lovely.
on Colfax. But I won't take my relaxation until Wednesday, the 26th.
Wow.
When Dictopia is
Ever
joining
heard of
us
it?
at the C Film Center
Yeah.
for our new program that we've been doing the last couple of months called Dyke
Dyke
Drama.
drama.
Oh, I love it.
We're featuring just fantastic queer cult films, and Dictopia introduces them and creates a nice, fun party atmosphere for the first 20-30 minutes, and then you watch the movie amongst other queer-minded folks. And this next Wednesday, the 26th, we'll be doing Tank Girl.
Yeah. Tanks, girl.
So
Yeah.
good. Perfect.
The Lori Petty sci-fi epic.
I will just say too, Sunday is the parade. So
Oh, shit.
I know. I always forget that. And then I'm like, wait. But that also to me is like the best time if you want to bring your kids.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More
When
the
you're looking for that
Yeah.
one thing that is what do I have to do that's not super active? You're literally just going to be
Just sit
standing
and
on the
watch the
side.
parade.
Exactly. And I heard this year is the biggest parade they've had in
50
history.
years of Pride.
Yeah.
Oh, because it is their 50th.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they've never had this many floats.
That's what I heard, too.
People in it,
Oh,
which means
yay.
the parade is. I think the schedule of it starts at 9:30 and goes till 12:30 or 1.
So,
essentially,
drink water, wear sunscreen.
Yes.
Drink water.
Try to find some shade if you can.
grab a donut.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, Kate, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having
Thanks
us.
for having me too.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Paul Caroli, Olivia Jewel Love, Alexandra McMahon, and Elizabeth Kama. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, and I'm Bree Davies, your host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver, and tell Sophie Birkin about us next time you see them. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. Happy Pride!